asking like a doctor, yeah.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order, April 21st meeting to order. We'll have the invocation, say it, and pledge allegiance, Commissioner Wilson, and then we'll have the roll call. Please stand. Father, we come to you tonight asking you to put your hand over everybody's hearts and hope that everybody's doing good, and then all through the United States and our other countries that we all taking safe precautions to get where we need to be to get out of this pandemic. We appreciate all the help and the first responders and nurses and doctors are doing, and we pray that things keep going the way they're doing and start to turn it towards better. We also ask you to watch over us tonight as we have our meeting, that we do the right things and go towards the right way for our city. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice.
If I don't know, will our sound, everything be okay with these masks on? I don't know, so if we don't, tell us. Okay.
Commissioner Brenson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here?
Mayor Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Furstner?
Here.
Commissioner Oliver?
Here.
All right, before we'll start, I want to read the first part. All interested parties are invited to be heard during the public comments and public hearing portion of the meeting. Due to the current state of emergency regarding COVID-19, City Hall is closed to the public. However, the city requests the public to call or email comments and or questions to 407-554-7118 or citizens@ocoee.org. Okay, proclamation. All right, I'll read it. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida water management districts and the city of Ocoee are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas the city of Ocoee and the state of Florida has designated April, typically a dry month, when water demands are most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas the city of Ocoee has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events. And whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can make a difference when it comes to conserving water. And whereas every business, industry, school, and citizen can help by saving water and thus promote a healthy economy and community. And therefore, be it resolved that the Ocoee City Commission does hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month in Ocoee, Florida, and is calling upon each citizen and business to help protect our precious resources by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. In witness whereof I hear and to have set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Ocoee, Florida to be affixed this 21st day of April, 2020. Rusty Johnson, Mayor. All right. Staff report.
The only thing I have this evening, Mayor, is we'd like to pull consent item number 2. You've been provided with an alternate agenda item number 2 in front of you, which actually gives you 3 choices, whereas there was no choice required, either a yes or no vote on the previous one. So that's the only thing I have. If you'd pull that and have a separate discussion on that, please.
I apologize. I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
You can pull agenda item number 2.
We just want to pull agenda item number 2 for a separate discussion. The new staff item that we have in front of you, it actually gives you 3 choices,
Okay.
whereas those weren't included
Right.
in the initial.
Okay, sorry.
And that's all I had.
All right. Is that all your staff report? Okay. All right. Commissioner's announcements. Commissioner Furstner.
No, none at this time.
Commissioner Wilson.
I also want to pull, I have something later, but
Item number 4, just for comments.
Number 5.
5, I'm sorry, 5 for comments.
All right, pull. All right, we're gonna pull item 2 and item 5. Anybody, all right, Commissioner Branson,
None at this time.
Commissioner Oliver.
Yes, I'd like to pull item 3 for discussion.
All right. Item 2, 3, and 5, we're gonna pull it. All right, I have some announcements real quick. I gotta tilt this thing, I can't talk. Whew. All interested parties are invited to be heard during the public comments and public hearing portion of the meeting. Due to the current state of emergency, I think I read that. Let's skip that. City staff will be standing by to ensure that your questions, comments come before the city commission during the meeting. All right. All right, let's, consent agenda. Item number 2.
Okay.
Who pulled that?
I did.
All right,
Before we go to the consent, there are some public comments.
okay.
I have one here that was just, well, this one isn't related. This is related to item 5, and it was really just, that's the
Well-
comment. But I have Arden Park on hold.
Well, why don't we start with item 2, then whichever one goes to the item we're talking about.
Mayor, you wanna approve the consent agenda except for those 3
All right.
items?
Well, there won't be much to approve, will there? Let's see. All right, we need a motion to approve 1
4 and 6.
4,
1,
Yep.
4, and 6.
1, 4, and 6.
I'll make that motion. I'll
Motion been made by Commissioner Oliver. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Bresson. All right, let's vote.
Aye.
All right. All right.
We don't have buttons. Sure.
All right. Number 2. Item 2.
Mayor, item 2, that there has been a revision to item 2 placed before you by public relations, community relations manager. I tonight spoke with the HOA president from Roberts Rise, and she, of course, was interested in the item number 3 and the revisions for them. There was 3 options that were available to them, to us regarding their grant, and they are in favor of item number 3, option number 3.
Is that on the,
It's not, it's in front of you, it's, I'll make it a long story short, they want a fence at the end of their street to block off, the ability for folks to come through, and they were under the assumption they could do that, and so, there's been some comments in our original packet regarding that, and so with this option number 3 will grant them some more time, besides letting them get the kiosks they had originally planned for, but then giving them extra time to work with city staff regarding the fence. So that's, in a nutshell, I think, if I'm correct, that's what item number 3 would be, so I'm
3
asking
or 2?
3.
It's recommendation
It's
3.
recommendation.
It's bullet number 3 on the recommendations,
Sorry.
Mayor.
Oh,
Item 2 deals with the neighborhood grant program. We received 4 applications. Staff recommended making the direct award on 2 of them. We had sort of a mixed recommendation for 1, which was the Roberts Rise HOA. And then there was a 4th one where we recommended no award because their projects had already been done. And the intent of the program is to encourage people to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do. And since they had already completed their projects, staff had recommended not to include them in the program. So we had, the original staff recommendation had been to award for 3 of those and to deny 1. But it turned out that for 1 of those, Roberts Rise, the situation was a little more complicated, whereas there are some issues with part of what they wanted to do that under current land use regulations, they would not be permitted to build the barrier that they want to construct in city right-of-way at the end of their street because it's too tall, it's an opaque material, there's lots of issues of that type that doesn't fit in with the land development code. And so what we put together today was a set of 3 choices for the Roberts Rise One is to grant the $400 as a matching fund for a directory that they want to install at the entrance to the subdivision that lists the names of the families who are there. But to deny then the $1,600 that would go towards the barrier wall that they want to construct. However, because of the rules of the program, they would not be eligible to apply next year to try to get the barrier if they worked out all the details with development services and got an agreement with the city. So the second recommendation was grant them nothing. That way they'd be free to apply next year after they worked out all the problems with the barrier wall, and they could construct it all next year. The third option was sort of a mix of both of those, where we would go ahead and give them the $400 as the 50% match for the kiosk, the directory, but then we would set up sort of a special program for the $1,600 that would be subject to a 12-month time period rather than the normal 6 months for this project. And if it didn't get done by the end of the fiscal year, then those funds would have to roll forward into next year's budget for us to be able to honor that commitment. So the third recommendation that Commissioner Wilson was talking about is where we award sort of the $400 under the regular program. They'd have 6 months to get that done. They've already got price quotes, so it looks like they could meet that schedule. And then they would have 12 months to work out the details and decide whether or not we'd actually be able to move forward with their request for the barrier. Because of the regulatory issues, it's going to require variances, it's going to require a memorandum of understanding about liability of having the structure of the street right-of-way, future maintenance, all those types of things would have to be worked out. And that would be subject to the $1,600.
All right, any more comments on that issue?
Now,
So,
I just wondered, Melanie, if, on the same item, did the HOA president she was gonna write in from, Lake
it's
Olympia?
here's a letter from her.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
Okay.
read that letter in, Mayor, if that's all right. This is from Vicky Mahoy.
Okay, that's the Roberts Rise. That was prior to making, I believe, was that sent to you prior to the recommendation?
This is sent yesterday at 7:20.
Okay, I just spoke to her around 5:30 today,
Okay.
but you can read that, but I just wanted to know what you.
Yeah, it's the same, her recommendation is the same as your recommendation.
Okay.
So I just want to read this into the record because it was submitted. City Commissioners, Roberts Rise HOA is requesting a grant for the purpose of fencing off the dead end of Roberts Rise Drive, which stops at the subdivision line at the Grove. The purpose of the fence is to stop people from cutting through the Grove, entering the neighborhood on foot at all hours of the day and night. We have had issues with car break-ins where they run out through the Grove to the neighborhood behind us. With the development of downtown Ocoee, we feel that this is the time to put a stop to unwanted foot traffic. Over 1 year ago, I spoke with Commissioner Wilson, and she came out and looked at the street. We discussed applying for a grant to fence the street off and having the two houses at the end of the street extend their fences along the property line to meet up with that fence. We were trying to do our due diligence and obtain whatever was needed before the grant process began. The grants then were put on hold. I have been in contact and actually got put on an email list for notification when the grants were going to be available. Attached is an email from Commissioner Wilson that she received from Michael Roomer advising that we would be required from the Roberts Rise what would be required from the Roberts Rise HOA, a memorandum of understanding stating that the city is not liable for the maintenance of the fence in the future. Once we were notified that the grants were back, we started getting bids for the fence, and one company advised that there would be problems with two residents extending their fence to the street fence. I called Mike Roomer and was informed he was in a meeting, and I received a call back. Do not remember his name, from a young man who went over the issue with me. He stated he would speak to Mike and get back to me. However, this did not happen, and since we were close to the grant date, I went forward with completing and submitting the application. He did suggest that an administrative waiver from Mike may be possible on the resident fences coming forward of their back property line and beginning 6 feet in height. We were recommended in the review the grant for $2,000 for our second project that we listed, which is a directory sign for $704.37, but not the fence. The issue we have is we were not told any of these objections on the fence until now, Had I known this earlier when we were gathering information, we could have listed some other items in the grant. Now the process is closed and we cannot apply for 2 years. If we are to be denied the fence, then I would request an extension to amend the application for some additional projects that we are looking for in the subdivision. We, of course, still feel the need to erect a fence at the dead end of the street.
All right, read as recorded. All right, any more comments on item 2? So that in reality, what you want is the $400 approval? Is that what it is?
No, we want recommendation number 3. What I'll be planning on doing is making a motion for approving revised item number 2. I think Mr. Oliver has something to say before.
So it would be a motion to approve Prairie Lake Reserve receiving $2,000, Sleepy Harbor receiving $2,000, Roberts Rise receiving $400 for the kiosk, and then $1,600 for the fence with an extension of the time to complete from 6 months to 12 months.
And denying,
Is staff in favor of that?
Yes.
Huh?
there's
Yes.
the denial of Lake Olympia.
Oh, yes, and no amount awarded to Lake Olympia.
Wait, but Lake Olympia was gonna call in. That's why I wondered, I mean, I'm dealing with all this. Did Lake?
But we're dealing with item 2 right now.
That is the same.
Yeah, it's all
that's-
4 of
There's
those.
4 items.
We recommended not to award them the grant because they'd already done the work.
But I thought we were dealing with the one about Roberts Rise.
Yes,
It's all the same one.
there were 4 grants, and he was just disposing of all 4 of those
So-
grants.
Like Olympia, we're not doing anything.
No.
Yeah, all right. All right, anybody make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I had a comment.
I'm sorry.
I've actually read through this amendment, and I certainly do agree with item number 3. It just seems to be the most reasonable one that will allow them to move forward with their fencing. So, yeah, it's a great proposal, so I agree with it.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Brinson. Any more comments? Let's signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. No, any opposed? None. All right,
Thank you.
motion carries. All right, item number 3.
Aye. What's that, Mr. Oliver?
Item number 3 is approval of Arden Park North Phase 6 non-substantial amendment to the planned unit development land plan. Who's?
That's,
That's
Mr. Oliver
yours.
asked for that, I
Yeah,
think.
I believe that there was a memo to be read on that. Was there a call in waiting as well?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, Mayor, we have an email from one of the residents and then a response from the home builder. And this is somewhat,
You gonna read that?
yeah.
I thought we usually just said recorded into the,
Well, these were requested to be read in tonight in lieu
All
of
right.
them coming down here
all right.
to speak.
And we do have them on hold.
Huh?
We have the callers on hold.
Oh, do they want to, you want to,
They're both on hold, the resident that sent the email and the applicant from Lennar.
then if we've got these in the record, then let's just, you want to just let them speak
That's what
or
we
read?
always do.
Okay. By conference call.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're on the,
Eric, you have the speaker form from Eric, I'll let Aaron.
yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Eric Romano from Arden Park. Is he gone?
She's gonna forward it. Hello, Eric? Yep. I have you on speakerphone, and we do have the timer set for 3 minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Phone time. Completely.
Completely went dead.
Completely went dead. Why?
I saw the light go on.
I know that one of my residents tried to call in and said they're having problems.
Oh,
Can you put them on a cell phone and then have it?
Yes, yes.
Can
Let me
they-
give him I'll tell Amber to give him
All
mine.
All right, we're gonna have about a 2-minute pause here. We're waiting to get this.
You want to move on to 5?
Yeah, let's move to 5. All right. Who brought 5 out?
I did.
Commissioner Wilson.
This is regarding Sleepy Harbor, the Lake Prima Vista. And I know this resident was going to try to call in, but we've had different discussions over this. But Steve, he just said to tell you that he appreciated your email. It was clear, and the explanation, they're excited the city is moving forward with the treatment. So it appears your email was,
I got
Smiling behind the mask.
wait, okay, okay.
I have
gathered-
one here from Mike Smerritt.
Right, Mike.
Smerito.
Mike
Lake cleanup,
Smerito's-
item 5, thank you for the work.
Okay, is that what he, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I want to pull it, just in case he did call in. It appears that they're pleased with what we're going to move forward with Lake Prima Vista. And so, I think you did a great job. Thank you for discussing it with him.
Awesome, thank you.
Let me make a motion.
Okay, so I'll make if there's nothing else on that one, I can make a motion to approve item
5.
5? Well, this is confusing,
Okay.
isn't it? I'd like to make the motion to approve item
All right.
5.
So, what about item 5 now? Is that,
We just had discussion, I thought someone might be calling in, but they didn't, so, and we got comments that they're pleased with what's happening, so I'm making the motion to approve item 5.
all right, motion been made by Commissioner Wilson to approve item 5.
I'll
Do I hear a
second it.
Second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Oliver. Any more comments? If not, let's vote. All aye?
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we're back to 3.
I'm gonna go ahead and just contact, Eric on my cell phone, and I'll just put it on speakerphone that way.
Okay.
Are we supposed to give 3 minutes? Are we supposed to give 3 minutes between the, every
Well, this
item
is,
because of this?
when we start for the regular thing, this is just for the consent deal.
So we don't, but when we get to that point, we have to wait 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Is that a 3-minute
Yeah.
rule?
They've been online, they were online, waiting.
Okay.
Hi, is this Eric? Hi, Eric, my apologies, our phone system went down. So I'm calling you from my cell phone, and I'm gonna go ahead and place you on speakerphone. And we'll go ahead and, let you, make your comment that way, okay? Our apologies. No. It went, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, so they can hear you now.
Okay, so start from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
My wife and I and our 2-year-old son recently bought a home within the Arden Park North neighborhood in Ocoee. We signed contract on it around July 23rd, 2019, while it was still under construction. It was completed on November 18th, 2019, and we moved in on November 19th, 2019. When we initially went to their sales office, we were showed maps of Phase 3, which was the current phase that was being built at the time, as well as the projected lots for Phase 4, which would begin sometime in the second quarter of 2020. We narrowed it down to 3 homes, ultimately deciding on the one at the far end of the phase, which would become adjacent to the next phase. The land behind this lot we chose was empty tract with no homes as it butts up against wetlands. To the south, 1 neighboring home, and to the north, what was presented to us as green space, which was in Phase 4. The maps being showed this green space, the salesman pushed to this green space, and that this was a premium lot. Ultimately, having a young son, we favored the increased privacy of only having 1 neighbor, so we bought lot number 80 in Arden Park North. Fast forward to about a month after we moved in, it was brought to our attention by our neighbor that the lot to our north that was sold to us as green space was now going to have 3 houses built on it. We voiced our concern to Lennar Homes, who had their in-house attorney take 3 weeks to tell us that per our contract, they were within their rights to change views, lots, and home sites. Being understandably frustrated by this answer, I reached out to Commissioner Oliver, and a day later, Commissioner Oliver was at our house trying to gain a better understanding of our situation. He spent an hour with my wife and I while we explained the circumstances of the situation. He invited me to the upcoming commission meeting, which was coincidentally the next day. I attended this meeting where Commissioner Oliver made a statement to the commission on our issues with Lennar. After the meeting, I met with Michael Rumor, who invited me to his office to go over a few public record items pertaining to Arden Park North. After pulling up documents, it was determined that Lennar Homes had approval from the city of Ocoee for those 3 lots adjacent to lot number 80, which would eventually become our home around May 30th of 2019. This definitively proved that Lennar Homes knew a full 2 months before we signed our contract that those 3 homes would be built on that space that their sales team told us was green space. Yet, when we were picking a lot, they were using maps that were knowingly not accurate and still pushing that lot as premium. Just for reference, my neighbor to our south paid $10,000 for their lot. We paid $20,000 because the lot was only to have 1 neighbor, thus making it premium. Yet they still took our money, lied to us, and frauded us into this lot, knowing full well we would never be getting what we just paid them over $400,000 for. In the months leading up to right now, Lennar has refused to rectify the situation even when faced with these facts. We are not alone. If you walked through our neighborhood and knocked on doors, you would hear one horror story after another about the treatment that customers have gotten from one of the biggest home builders in the country. We could have chosen another lot if they didn't intentionally deceive us. We had options. As a matter of fact, the identical house 5 lots down was $12,000 less because it didn't have the premium lot. We could have just saved the money and chose that one, which would essentially have been identical. They took the options away from us and name agreed and flat out refused any semblance of responsibility. I come to the commission today to ask that you hold terrible acts they perpetuated against our family. These kind of actions against your citizens cannot go unacknowledged. While doing what's popular is always easy, it's doing what's right that's difficult. But doing what's right for the citizens of the city should always be the top priority. I'm asking the city to do what's right and help us hold Lennar accountable for their actions. Please help our family. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it very much. Can you hear me?
Can you hear?
Tell him thank you.
Yes.
All right, now we're gonna have,
Thank you, commissioners, for listening to us.
all right, now we're gonna have our city attorney give us the opinion of what the legal opinion is.
Yeah, I think the item before you relates to Phase 6. This is the same neighborhood, but a completely different issue. This resident has an issue with Lennar and their allegedly a change of plans to Phase 4 that affected this homeowner. What's before you on the consent agenda is a non-substantial amendment to the land use plan, changing Phase 6 from a school site to residential. It's the same builder, same Lennar, same community, but a different phase. I know that Mike, at the last city commission meeting, this was brought up, Mike spoke with the resident and was in the process of setting up a meeting with Lennar to help facilitate some kind of resolution. And then Mike found out that the homeowner had hired an attorney, and it looked like this was going to proceed to litigation. So on my recommendation to Mike, we thought it was best that we not get involved in what essentially was a private dispute between a home builder and one of their customers. So that's why we haven't, and I don't think we can step in at this point to try to resolve or interfere with a matter that looks like it's headed to litigation between the 2 parties. So again, what's before you today on the consent agenda really has nothing to do with this homeowner or his lot or what's behind his lot. This is a different phase of the community, bringing that phase from what was originally looked at for a school site, and the school board didn't want it, so it's now coming back for residential use approval.
And then, Mayor, if
All
I
right.
could add, Mayor, the original,
Let-
oh, yeah.
Excuse me just a minute. All right, when you finish, we're gonna have the guy from Lennar on the phone.
Okay, just, the original plan unit development had 2 uses for Phase 6. I just want to make this clear on what you're deciding on. It had the option, 15 acres for a school site, and then it had what's called the alternative subdivision. It's called out here, alternate residential layout for Phase 6. It even included Phase 6, a number of lots, lot sizes. So this is deemed a non-substantial change, or what you're doing is confirming my decision, the DRC's decision, that this is not a substantial amendment to the PD. A substantial amendment would be adding new uses, increasing density, or adding new access points. The PD already allotted for residential units in Phase 6, even lot sizes and number count. The PD plan just showed this as vacant with the option of the school first until the school board turned it down, which the school board has done by letter. They said they do not intend to purchase this property in their capital program at all. So all we're doing is a non-substantial amendment is to change this plan so you don't see that, you'll see the residential lots in the PUD. So since, again, we're not adding a new use, we're just showing, reflecting what the main use is gonna be. And that determination is non-substantial, and you guys are just affirming that decision. Thank you.
Hi, Mark, this is Molly. I'm gonna go ahead and put you on now on speakerphone.
I need that, we need where I can announce it is.
You will. Okay, Mark, you're on, and I will go ahead and put the timer.
I'm gonna introduce.
Okay, go.
All right, I'm gonna read it in. This is, Mark McDonald from Lennar, be on the phone talking for this number 3. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Mark McDonald, Lennar Home. I'm Director of Land for Orlando. So I want to thank the Commission for taking this into consideration for the non-substantial amendment to the Arden Park North PUD. This change is just changing the designation on Phase 6 from the former Orange County Public Schools elementary school site to the residential entitlements as approved through the PUD. So we're aware of the claim that's raised by the Romano family, and of course we are concerned with anything, any claim that comes from any of our residents when they're unhappy with the purchase of their home. So we are engaged with their attorney, and we're working to resolve this matter. So we take every claim seriously, and although we dispute the facts as presented, we are working with their attorneys to come up with a resolution on this matter. This is a private contractual matter between the Romanos and Lennar Homes, so I can't really publicly comment on the details until it's resolved, but I would like to have consideration for this non-substantial amendment based on its conformance with the Land Development Code and the previously approved land use plan. So the proposed PUD amendment and the residential density fits within the originally approved maximum density for the PD, and this is just a change determination for the use of the school site that Orange County Public Schools decided not to acquire, and to use the residential entitlements that are already approved within the PD.
All right, tell them, all right, comments from, I'm gonna open it up, comments from, do I have to open it up to the public? We already did that, so I'm gonna open it up, comments from commissioners. Commissioner Aller.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what I see here. I understand the Romano's position here. I also understand Lennar's position as it pertains to moving forward with Phase 6 of this amendment. I understand exactly what we're here to approve or disapprove. But what I also see is, I see a citizen that is a taxpaying citizen of Ocoee that was doing business with Lennar, who contracted with the city of Ocoee to develop land. And not only the Romanos, but also other residents within Arden Park North has had similar experiences with Lennar. So when I look at this, I have to weigh heavily on the taxpaying citizen and see what would happen here. Now, it seems to me that the sales management or sales team of Lennar was using one map and actually selling lots with one map that did not show these homes next to the Romanos. And they went ahead and sold those maps. However, 2 months prior to that, whether the sales force knew or made a mistake, but it still seems to be an issue with Lennar because the approval through this commission to approve those maps were done 2 months prior to the Romanos purchasing their land. So we have 2 different maps that was being used. One that was actually we approved that was allowed the phase 4 to show those additional homes next to the Romanos, but then you have the previous map that was also approved, which was seen to be should have been negated at that point by the sales force, and it was used to have them sign a contract to pay a premium price on a lot of $20,000 when the rest of the neighbors only paid $10,000. Now, what I see is I see an opportunity for the city to stand up for their residents. I'm not saying that we have to disapprove this. What I'm saying is that we have an opportunity to send a message to Lennar that we will stand behind our citizens when it comes to these type of practices. I would like for Lennar to at least admit that there was a problem with the maps and that whether they knew it or not on one side, so see, it's a matter of one hand not knowing what the other hand was doing. So now you have the salespeople actually giving these high-pressure sales on premium lots when the maps were no good, and they sold them a $400,000 home under the pretense that there would be no one to the north of them. Well, that was not true. We knew it as a city, and Lennar, their upper management knew it to be not true. So where the translation got discombobulated, we don't know. No one knows, but we do know that there was a mistake that was made by Lennar, and we should hold Lennar accountable to at least admit that there was a mistake. At least admit to the Romanos that there was a mistake. Whether we send a scathing message to Lennar, but we need to at least let them know that we're going to stand behind our citizens. So now I understand what we're trying to prove here, and I have no problem with this, but in good conscience, based on what has happened here, my accountability toward the Romanos, the taxpaying citizens, I'm not going to prove this. I'm going to say no, even though I know it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with what we're trying to do here, but I'm not going to prove it because no one has stood up for this citizen to say, hey, look, let's hold them accountable. Now, it's a litigation matter, and I don't agree that we should get involved in any litigation at all. This is going to be between Lennar, their attorneys, the Romanos, and their attorney. I think our responsibility is simply just to let Lennar know that we are not going to allow you to do our citizens this way and stand back idly and not say anything.
All right, any other commissioners make comments?
Well, I don't know if you can hear me, so I'm going to take off on it. Well, I'm hopeful that Lennar and this particular resident can come to a mutual agreement behind this. I tend to agree with the attorney as well as Commissioner Oliver, our attorney, Scott Cookson, as well as the Commissioner Oliver, that it's probably not a good idea for us to weigh in with this pending litigation. But I'm hopeful that the two parties can come to a mutual agreement on this matter without having the city have to weigh in any further.
Any other commissioners' comments?
I feel the same way.
Commissioner First.
The two items are completely separate. We've always dealt fairly with the developers and the builders in this city, and I would like to see them at least show the same respect to their customers and clients who are citizens of Ocoee. I'm sure that Lennar is a big company. They can come to some agreement that will satisfy the Romano family, and it shouldn't be too expensive on anyone's part. As far as Phase 6 goes, I'm going to support the recommendations of city staff on that. I don't want to hold Lennar hostage to make a decision in an unrelated case, but I would hope that they come to the table quickly and make a reasonable settlement with the Romano family, who have acted in good faith to this point in time, and they should be treated so. That's all.
I agree with basically everything that was said. I agree with supporting the agenda item, supporting staff on that. I also feel as that we need to look and protect our residents, and it's very important that they are treated fairly by our developers and by anyone that receives services from the city. So I am supportive of the item. I do hope that Lennar and the Romanos can come to some equitable solution. So I don't know where you.
All right, what I would say is he still on the phone, Mr., what is it?
McDonald?
Huh?
He's watching from home.
Are they all both on the,
No,
we
they're
can't.
watching.
Well, what I would say is, and is what the legal part was with our city attorney. As Commissioner Oliver and the rest of you, we do try to do what's right for our citizens. It's easy to say, do this, but we cannot legally tell them they've got to pay that. It'd be nice, but what I would say is, if I was Lennar, I would find a way to straighten that out, because the more this does is get spread out to other people that's looking to buy homes, is not going to be beneficial to them. But legally, under the real estate, to me, they can go to the Department of Professional Regulations and file a grievance against the real estate agent and Lennar. If I'm not mistaken, I know I'm a real estate agent also, and you can file under the professional regulations of the state of Florida, and they can file a claim against it. But I would also hope we need to send a letter. We can send a letter saying that we ask them to treat their neighbors fine and treat them the way we respect. If they did that, then they need to look at it without having to go through litigation. So I don't think we can not vote for it. I would say I wouldn't not vote for this because of that. I feel bad for the Romanos, but I think we have to also let Lennar know that we as the city are not favorably in favor of what they've done. So we need to send them a letter to that. And I wouldn't mind, we'll draw up the letter, Rob, or somebody, I'll sign it. As the mayor, we can sign the commissioners too if we want to. Then let's look at this thing in a favorable way before it gets carried out into the public. All right, I need a motion on item number 3.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson.
I'll second.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Who seconded it? Commissioner Brinson. All right, any more comments? If not, let's hear ayes.
Aye.
Aye. Nays?
Nay.
One nay by Commissioner Oliver. All right, we need to send I'd like Craig or Rob, somebody, let us send a letter to the homeowners and state what we did, why. And we're gonna ask Lennar also, send them a letter saying, hey, try to get this solved. I know, I'll sign it. All right. That's all of the consent agenda, right? I think.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, item number 7. First reading of ordinance for fiscal year 2020 budget amendment. Public hearing. That's Finance Director Roberts. Now, this is just the first reading.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and read
It'll be back on the May the 5th, 2020. If you have any questions pertaining to this before then, go see Rob, and if you have to, get a hold of the Finance Director. All right? So it'll be back on May the 5th. All right. Second reading of ordinance.
I'm sorry, Mayor, let me do
Okay,
the
go
first
ahead.
reading of that
Sorry.
one.
Read it in.
So this is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Orange County, Florida, relating to the city budget, amending the city budget adopted by ordinance 2019-026 for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2019 and ending September 30th, 2020, by providing for increase of appropriations, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Okay. Let's go to item number 8. Second reading of ordinance for West Orange Medical Center, 3442 and 3462 Old Winter Garden Road, annexation and rezoning to plan unit development, land use plan. Development Service Director Rumor.
Thank you, Mayor. The item is an annexation and a rezoning to plan unit development for a property at 3442 and 3462 Old Winter Garden Road. It's locking up on me. The property is located on the south side of Old Winter Garden Road, east of Blackwood. It contains 1.21 acres, just about an acre and a quarter. It's currently in Orange County. It's adjacent to the city limits across Old Winter Garden Road, being the Health Central property. That also creates the ability to annex. It's located within the city's utility boundary and within the City of Ocoee, Orange County Joint Planning Area Agreement. See, the property contains 2 single-family homes, which would be demolished, and then a proposed 3-unit three office buildings totaling 14,646 square feet, as proposed in the land use plan. See the 3 buildings. This is annexing the property in, bringing it in under the office land use, which was the land use decided upon in the Orange County City of Ocoee Joint Planning Area Agreement. And then providing for an elevation like this for 3 office buildings, which is similar to, just next door is the Citrus Medical Office Park. It's a little bit bigger, but we're seeing a lot of interest on Old Winter Garden Road for a future medical office, which is nice. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right. Anybody, have you got to read anything?
I do.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and read, and we'll open the public hearing and then
All right.
come back.
This is the annexation ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Ocoee, Florida, certain real property containing approximately 1.21 acres located on the south side of Old Winter Garden Road and approximately 180 feet east of Blackwood Avenue pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said annexation to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, the Ocoee City Code, and the Joint Planning Area Agreement, providing for and authorizing the updating of official city maps, providing direction to the city clerk, providing for severability, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for an effective date. And then the rezoning ordinance is an ordinance of the City of Ocoee, Florida, changing the zoning classification from Orange County A1, rural agricultural, to Ocoee PUD, planned unit development, on certain real property containing approximately 1.21 acres, located on the south side of Old Winter Garden Road and approximately 180 feet east of Blackwood Avenue pursuant to the application submitted by the property owner. Finding said zoning to be consistent with the Ocoee Comprehensive Plan, providing for and authorizing the revision of the official city zoning map, repealing inconsistent ordinances, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
All right. What we're going to do we need to do the 3-minute thing?
We do.
All right. We're going to have open the public hearing up for 3 minutes for anybody on item number 8.
Mayor, I had gotten a comment on my phone
Okay.
from a resident.
What's it? What issue?
It's regarding this one. It's when they annex, they kick people out of their houses, or they abandon. They're watching this on TV. I'll give you a copy of that.
I didn't understand what you said.
He this resident, Mike Samerito he wanted to know, when they annex, do they kick people out of their houses, or were the homes abandoned? That's a question that,
Who got kicked out?
no, that's what the resident wants to know. When we
Got
annex,
2 houses, I don't know.
do they kick people out of
No.
their homes?
No.
I'm assuming that,
No. Or if you, here, let me make
this
a
is what
comment
they're
on that.
asking, is they kick the people out of their homes, or were the homes already abandoned?
If the property owner, the
So-
person that's applying owns the homes, to me, they look abandoned, but if they do have renters, they'll have to follow the rent.
Are you
They still
talking
have to,
about these homes that are on the
Yes.
corner of Blackwood?
yeah.
This person is referring to the item, they're watching it at home on TV. And they're asking if that's their question regarding, so I'm asking it during a public hearing.
Is this, all right, this is the houses that are located on the corner of Blackwood and Old Winter Garden
Not-
Road?
Just to the east
Just
of
a
it,
little bit.
one lot to the east. There are 2 houses really close to the road.
Those houses were sold a long time ago. That
Yes.
was,
and this is the applicant that owns it
Right,
and doing this
yeah.
rezoning.
Okay, that's, they're just asking.
Yeah.
How do we do this? Do I have to give you a copy of this?
You can send it to the city clerk's office. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, 3 minutes. Well, we still got 47 seconds. Annexation is usually by favor of whoever's in the property.
Property
We
owner.
don't annex unless they ask us to, and we don't kick anybody out. All right, nobody's called in or nobody's asked in the public thing, so I'm gonna close the public thing and bring it back,
Get 18
except for
seconds.
is that Mr. Simetro?
Yeah.
All right, that has been entered will be entered into the records he called in.
Okay, I'll send a copy of that to Melanie.
Thank you, sir. All right. We need two motions here. We're gonna start with the second reading of annex ordinance. We need a motion for the annexation.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson for the West Orange Medical Center annexation 34 and 3462. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Branson. Any more comments? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we need a motion for the rezoning ordinance.
Make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson. Here's a second.
Second.
Second by, you gotta get faster. Commissioner Branson's on the ball down there. All right, any more comments? No more comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. All right, regular agenda none, staff action none, comments from citizens of the public. Do we need another 3 minutes on that
Yep.
3 minutes. Anybody getting, can we talk?
We do have one I can read while we're
Okay,
doing the
go
3
ahead.
minutes. This, I think you each have an email here from Isardai Budu. I live in the Forest Trails community in Ocoee. I'm trying to change my house number. The address is 2175 Laurel Blossom Circle. The reason for wanting to change the house number is because for religious purposes. The numbers add up to be a very unlucky number. I am a single mother of 4 kids under the age of 17. I don't want to have to move from this community. My brother had a similar issue in Orange County and was able to change it without a fee. Jack Butler, Director of Support Services, contacted me regarding the request for the address change. They will be able to accommodate the address change to 2177 Laurel Blossom Circle. Unfortunately, there is a fee of $750 to do all the address update in the city of Ocoee. At this time, my financial situation is very limited for income. I'm not sure what the industry will be in the next upcoming months with the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm asking if the city of Ocoee can do a better price or even waive the fee to do the address modifications. I understand that this is not a usual request, but your help is greatly appreciated. And she leaves her phone number.
All right, put that in the public record for, and I want to ask Jack Butler here.
Yes.
That issue, you went through and researched it and did all that, but what happened to where the post office used to change the numbers?
The way this works is that we have to go back and change history because of the building permits
Right,
and
yeah,
all those other
yeah.
things have to be changed too. That's why it costs
Yeah.
$750.
The other thing I would ask you also is, what religion?
I
I
don't
was
know.
thinking when I read that, first heard that it was 666 or something.
Well, it adds up to 15. And just for our own purposes, we did research to try to find out what group considers 15 to be an unlucky number, and we couldn't find one. We could find several communities, such as in Spain, it's a very lucky number. They bought the house years ago, and it had that number. We've never changed an address number of an occupied structure. We have twice changed an address while it was under construction because they're like it'd be a corner lot or it'd be some other thing, and we could go ahead and do that. We have kind of a pattern of numbering houses in here, and that's why they got that particular number, 2175 because it's like every 10 numbers in there. So we had space to make the accommodation to make it 2177, but it's not a free service. We're not making money on the deal, but we have to go in and we have to go back to the building permits, to the development permits and all those other things, so that in the future, if anything ever comes about, we can find those records. We won't be able to find records for 2177 in the future because they're not in that address. So we have to move them to be at that address. And that's not just us, that's also the property appraiser and the post office and the utility companies and 911, and there's several other groups we have to work with to make this happen once this has already been issued. So that's where the cost comes in. It's really going to cost us more than that. We're trying to be accommodating, but we're also trying to recognize the fact that there are costs imposed on the city and its other residents to make this change from an address they've lived at for several years.
Well, I would, Commissioner Oliver's name's on this, so I'll let him, what subdivision is that in?
Forest Trails?
It's in Forest Trails.
It's
Forest where?
yeah.
Forest, it really shouldn't matter to us why.
What I want to say back to what you did, I know, to me, if we do this, then we're into doing it for somebody that don't like their kids didn't like the name of the road or the street. You cannot, I mean, I got 21. I like my number. It's kind of lucky if you use it right. But, I mean,
Depends on where you're at.
yeah, depends where you're at. But I just said I don't know how you can do that. But that's my own opinion. I would not vote to do that because then you're gonna have everybody calling up here if they don't like their number, wanting to change it, and we're gonna have to pay for it.
We did have some of those concerns, but we especially felt like we needed to have some sort of cost recovery.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, it's costly.
But you can make the policy and say don't do it.
Well, I personally don't think we can do that because you get into doing that and everybody's going to, somebody's going to not like something about it. So that should be done when you buy it. But then, I don't know if you can do it then.
They were not the original owners of the house. It was constructed, I believe, in 2004. And they bought it in 2016, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's my opinion, but I like to, I got it.
It's actually just what's the clock road.
Yeah, you want to talk on?
Sure, yeah. I spoke to Miss Badu. But not Badu. I had to ask her how to pronounce her name. It's Miss Badu. I spoke with her several times. We've shared a few text messages about this issue. When it first came apparent to me what she was trying to do, I thought it was rather unusual. So I spoke to the city manager about it to see if it could actually be done. So we did find out, yes, she has a room to change the number from 2175 to 2177. So yes, it can be done. Now, I would have hoped that we would have been able to get this done without coming before the commission. But when the price tag came, she was a little alarmed by the price tag, and I did explain to her that your other option would be to come before the commission and explain why you're asking this to be done. Now, I have no problem with doing this. I'm simply asking on her behalf that we maybe possibly reduce the price a little bit so it may be affordable for her. Now, but I do understand that this could be a slippery slope because this is being televised and there's numerous amount of people watching this, and someone could come up and say, well, I don't like my number either, or I don't like my neighbor's number, so I want to change it. If you combine my neighbor's number and my number, it becomes this. So even when we look at 2175, it becomes 15, but it depends on if you're adding, multiplying, or dividing. Depends on what you're doing with that. But I would say, I would simply ask or respectfully request that we would consider perhaps reducing the price for her and letting her go about her business and take this one request at a time.
Any more comments?
I'll be happy to make a comment at this point. I tend to agree with the mayor that when we start, it happens when we do the liens, and people come in because we reduce liens, and we did it for one, so we end up doing it for another for similar reasons. And when this is costing us folks time, and we have to add that in there, that if $750 is the low side of the cost, when Mr. Butler is saying that it really is gonna cost more, but that's the figure they gave, that, I really think, again, just as you said, it's a slippery slope. We do it for one, we have to do it for others. And if we start reducing today, then we have to reduce the next one, and it goes on. I tend to would say $750 if that's even on the low side, that we're offering a discount on that, then I think that that's something we should continue to stay with.
All right, any more comments?
One thing I just thought about, even if we look at the 750, would there be any way we can make any concessions to allow her to make, before any work is being done, to make any payments on this, and once it's all paid off, then we can go into action? And any concessions we might be able to make in that regard? I'm just looking at any way I can get this done for her.
I know, but that just trying to make the citizen happy is just not making, if it just turns into a circle, because it's gonna happen again. And I just don't see how we do it. I mean, I don't want to start, if you started, then we're into it. I mean, you know, I don't see the number thing.
Can I just say something? And I just mentioned liens, and a lot of times when we've done liens, we've said it had to be paid within 90 days. If that's something that she wants to save the money up for, and at that point it's done, I don't know about making the payment plan, because if the person doesn't continue the payment plan, we've done the work, and they have.
No, prior to any work being done.
Right,
Right,
but
no,
if
Wait
that
till
is.
she's got, we're in no rush, we can do this whenever
Yeah,
they
just
want
keeping
to.
the rate at $750, and then when she wants to come forward with $750, if she wants to save this and then come forward, that's setting the price at $750. To me, I have no problem with that, but when she's ready to pay it, then they can move forward.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at based on her email, when she stated that she don't know what the price would be next year if she saves up the money.
What happens,
Oh, I see.
just say, what happens, we do it, and then she says, yeah, I'll pay you, but we don't get paid. You can't repo those numbers.
No, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying is that instead of doing it like we do liens, that, you know, you have 90 days to pay it, the situation is we set the rate at $750 for her, and when she saves the money, she can come forward and
Try it again.
try at that point, but knowing that it's a $750 charge. Is that what you're
Absolutely.
saying?
Yes, that's what I'm
So
saying.
when she can come up with the money, when she comes
Yeah.
up with a $750, that we will honor that $750
We'll honor the
as a
$750
fee.
price tag for,
That's what you're.
bring it back at that
Yeah.
point. Okay.
Oh, I think that's very reasonable to ask.
So we can have a consensus on that?
Consensus, bring it back if she gets $750.
I thought it was to set it so that when she does do it.
When she does it, we'll honor that price tag.
When she has $750 to pay for it.
Right,
Yeah.
that Mr. Butler's aware that $750
Yeah,
is the
'cause we don't want
price
to
to do
send
this
Commissioner
service.
out there to repo them numbers.
This is not an issue that comes up very much.
Oh, that's your job?
Now,
I've never seen that.
we are also gonna make sure that,
Yeah.
we're clear on the address, on the, whatever number that is.
Yeah,
Cause we don't want her to,
Yeah.
change later.
she's gonna have a bad week next week and we'll change the number again.
Well, and that's when they pay the $750, sorry, it's on. When they
Well,
pay the
it's also been read in the record as well.
Yeah.
We have it on record.
Okay.
Yeah, all right,
We won't forget it.
okay, all right, so, can you let her know that, or you want?
Yes, I'll reach out to her, after the meeting.
All right, or we could have, I'd also like him to send a letter too. You do it, but would you please send a letter? All right,
Oh, thank you.
okay, all right. That's it, except for,
No other public comments.
public comments, anybody?
No.
No public comments in 3 minutes, so we're gonna go to the, comments from commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Oliver.
Okay. All right. Just a couple of items. One, I know that the state of Florida is due to receive about $8 billion from 3 trillion. Actually, we've already been allocated, state of Florida has already been allocated $8 billion from the federal government. And Orange County is going to receive about $8 billion of that. I'm sorry, we're receiving $8 billion from the state of Florida. Orange County is going to receive a large sum of that based on Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, and Miami. And we're actually due to receive a large chunk of that, second to Miami. So my question or my comment is simply, can we possibly get staff to look into how we would actually get a hold of some of that money for the city of Ocoee to cover any expenses that may have occurred as a result of COVID-19. If we had any overtime or anything that related to COVID-19, if we can actually reach out to the county to find out what is the mechanisms that is going to take for us to apply for some of that money for our city. All right. I'm done with that one, so if there's any comments.
Yeah, I think that would actually be automatic. If we know the county's getting some money through the feds, through the state or something, we're going to try and get in there and get our share. So as soon as we get the details that exchange has taken place, I'm sure there'll be placed phone calls, and we'll see how they intend to divvy that up.
Awesome. And I have one last item. On March 23rd, I was reaching out when the schools were closing. I reached out to all of the principals in every school in Ocoee. We have one high school, one middle school, and we have 4 elementary schools. And I reached out to every principal and spoke to each principal about how it's going to affect them and what we can do as a city to help them or assist them in this particular transition. One of the things that I found that to be pretty consistent throughout each principal is the fact that we had 7,000 students in Ocoee, and we did not have a grab-and-go meals program. So right at that point, when I reached out, it had already been 2 weeks into the school closure. 2 weeks into the school closure, we have one elementary school, which is Spring Lake, where we have all the kids walk to school. And we found that some of the kids just didn't have transportation to go to the grab-and-go sites unless they want to catch 2 or 3 buses to get to one in Winter Garden or Popka or the Gotha area. So I found out that there was probably a potential of several students not having meals. So you got 2 weeks. Some of those kids rely on those meals. The breakfast and the lunches, they rely on those meals every single day. And when the school closed like that abruptly, it is a possibility that a lot of those kids were not eating. So we're 2 weeks into this thing. I spoke to the school board. The school board assured me that they would come up with a grab-and-go program in the city of Ocoee. They don't know why we were overlooked, but they did agree to put up one, but it was going to take them a couple of weeks to get it done. They finally did get it done at Ocoee Middle School. They'll grab-and-go there Monday through Friday. And we have it there, and it's a great program. However, the kids at Spring Lake during that time frame, I went ahead on and set up with the principal. I gave out 100 pizzas to the kids in the community. I gave out 100 pizzas within an hour. I paid for it on the credit card, which it needed to be done at the time. We were not meeting, so we were actually shut down as well. So I made a decision to do so. And what I'm asking right now, I'm respectfully asking that the city would pick up this tab for $500 for those 100 pizzas for Little Caesars pizzas that I purchased for those kids at Spring Lake Elementary School.
Well, I don't know if we can do that really, because legally we're not supposed to use those cards unless it's approved. I don't use mine because I don't want it to come back through the system. Now, it would have been if we come to a meeting and ask for it. We all want them to do it. We could have paid for it out of our own and then asked for the refund through the city. But that's up to Rob and the finance lady. She's gone. I don't use. I don't know how long, many of y'all been here for a while, but back when Orange County Commissioner Bob Friedman was in office, he got into a lot of trouble using his credit card. So I don't particularly want to do that, but I know, we all know that need to be fed, but I've got something to talk about that in a few minutes also. So, Rob?
Yeah, I think you have the authority to do that, Mayor, to authorize it. We do it typically on some policies and procedures that we have. Even some ordinances that we might want to bend the rules for have come back at some point. The purchasing policy that we have, the section on credit cards, generally says not to do those types of things, but it's written with some leeway towards the commissioners, knowing your status and your stature with the community. Typically, something like that, if it's brought up before it happens and you have a chance to discuss it, then it goes a lot smoother. This one kind of got caught in the gears because nobody knew where to charge it. It kept getting bounced back to our office. So you do have the authority, and you do that in different things. I think maybe it's time for you to decide if you want to do this and maybe some type of loose policy or something to guide each one of you as far as when these types of things come up. Should you maybe pay for it yourself and see if you can get reimbursed versus the purchasing card? It creates a lot of work in purchasing because they actually don't know what to do with it, and it gets bounced around a little until we get some clarification at one of these meetings whether you all authorize that to be paid or not.
Well, the only other thing I would know is, or say, if it's a way to put it into where you could do something up to a certain amount of money within purview of doing something like that, for that type of thing.
I think it was kind of, I mean, and I think it was Commissioner Wilson who brought it up a couple of times and putting, and it was like the travel accounts too, and putting it under each individual commissioner's name. I mean, I don't think there's anything fishy about this one. We all know, I mean, it's been confirmed, we all know that it actually did go for pizzas and it went to the students. You know, maybe it would have been better done first. Commissioner Oliver's not been here that long. And like I said, when you actually read the purchasing policy, it's pretty clear if you read it with the thought that this isn't allowed, but if you read it with the thought that it's possible, I think you could look at it both ways when you actually read the policy. So that might be something that you all want to set guidelines for each other, to not do something like this, to be able to do something like this in the future, or have some type of cost limit. We don't really fund any line item in the commission's budget for this, so it would probably have to come out of contingency.
I would take this to be a certain circumstance under what's happened. I would say pay it, but I would also say let's don't do that unless we get approval. But I would say pay it. I think it's a great thing to do, but I mean, like I could go out tomorrow and spend it for people I know where they need stuff, but I don't do it because I don't want to use that city card. But I would say it was a good cause. But we don't need to set a precedent in that either. I'd say pay it and make sure he gets his money. You took that out of your?
No, I used the card.
Oh. Pay it, and then that's like I said.
So if you could authorize the $500 from contingency, we could certainly do. I think you all have the authority to do that, and it's not an issue at that point as long as you authorize it by consensus or vote.
But do we need to also say that this can't be a recurring issue with all of us?
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do.
I think it has to come before the commission. I do like the idea that at one point when I said we should all get a fund, and then you have that fund and you can use it as within your district or whatever.
And you can make that as formal as you want. If you want to just discuss it here, we have the minutes. We can read the minutes, and we know. Where it all comes to a head is actually when the charge comes in, and then we have to interpret. And if we have something where you've discussed it, or you've come up with a loose policy or resolution or something like that, then we know it either gets paid or it has to go to the commission for discussion.
I think that would be the way to do it, Commissioner Wilson. We can bring it up in the budget process and put in a thing for extenuating circumstances. I mean, you might go out somewhere and somebody's don't have no food, no power on or something. You might want to do it. So I mean, there's extenuating circumstances that we can look at. Like I said.
So we make the exception.
I would say, I'm on consensus, we can pay it, or do we need to vote on it?
Well, with the exception that this is not a reoccurring situation, that we, okay.
Okay, and we can use this discussion as far as how to handle these for the rest of the year. And if this discussion comes up in budget again, as far as another line item for these types of things, you can actually come up and set limits and limits of authority for charging these things and that type.
I think we've had discussions last workshop that this could possibly be something we can look at to do some discretionary spending for the commissioners. And again, when it's all gone, and that's it.
All right. Do we have to vote on it, or do we just?
Yeah, you can do it by consensus. So the consensus would be to pay that $500 out of contingency.
We're all okay. All right.
I agree.
All right. Okay. So that's you're done.
Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. All right, this is in recognition of autism. I'm sorry, it's Autism Recognition Month. In recognition of that month, we usually have a proclamation being read by the police department, but of course, due to the extenuating circumstances, I have decided to partner with an organization called Dre's Heavens, and we're going to feed on Thursday, April 23rd. We're going to feed all of the healthcare heroes at Ocoee, at Health Central in Ocoee. We just want them to know that we have not forgotten about them, that they are on the front lines, and we're going to be giving them lunch. It's going to be from 11 to 12 o'clock. We're going to package them all up through a company called Super Plate. which is it is a food truck that sits right adjacent to the hospital, and we're gonna purchase about 100 meals and take them over to the hospital and drop them off for the staff there. And this is in recognition of Autism Awareness Month, and it's also in conjunction with Great Dre's Evan, which is actually, it's a support housing for kids that they age out through the public school system. And what it does, it teaches them how to assimilate into the workforce, life skills, and also how to live independently. So they will be partnering with me on Thursday, and we'll be taking those meals over to the hospital.
All right. This Thursday?
This Thursday, between 11 and 1 o'clock.
All right, Commissioner Brinson.
Yeah, well, one of the things I want to do is thank city staff and the first responders in the city for updating us every week regarding the COVID-19. As we well know, the nation is still struggling with that, as well as it's a global issue. Even though we all are wearing our mask up here, it is something that I think it's a horse that's not too dead to beat. So again, I encourage and urge every citizen, resident, visitor, anyone who may even traverse throughout these lands to be extremely cautious. This thing is not over. I know there's a lot of talk about opening up cities and states and counties and whatnot, but I encourage you not to become complacent with what is going on. This is not like the flu. The flu, there's a vaccine for the flu. There's no vaccine for this thing. The only thing it can do is treat you and try to make you more comfortable. Some people get it, some people don't, some people it's severe, some people it's not, but you don't want to roll the dice on that. So I would encourage everyone to be extremely cautious regarding this novel coronavirus. Now, on another note, I'm going to talk waste management. Got an email regarding trash pickup. I don't know if you was able, Steve, if you were able to read that email or you got it or not.
Yeah, we bring.
I'll speak unmuffled. Steve Krug, Public Works Director. We've had a few emails the past couple weeks as we've transitioned into Waste Connections taking over the solid waste program. They're doing a pretty good job. The garbage and the recycling has gone off without a hitch. In light of the fact that before they took over, we were with the stay-at-home order, the tonnage we were experiencing was up 30% because people are eating at home and producing more residential solid waste. There was some confusion on what was in the contract on the yard waste, and it took a couple weeks to get all that squared away. They had 6 trucks dedicated to yard waste alone last week, taking care to get caught up. And I believe we're where we should be, and I think we're moving along pretty smooth. We did get a comment about a few that have sent in things saying, hey, I haven't had trash in 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, we were still collecting the trash, and we didn't have any record of that. We are tracking, they have the tracking ability like us to do GPS and see where the trucks are going, and they are running the routes, and they are recording when people don't have things out. But we're still sending, if we get a call the day that the trash is not picked up by 11 or noon, we can get that information to them and they can pick it up. But I do encourage people to please call Public Works, 407-905-3170. If we know about it, we can make sure it gets collected. I'd rather people not just call Waste Connections themselves. Adds to the confusion. If we get it, we can make sure that gets followed up.
Thank you. And this one citizen resident was in Wedgewood Commons.
Yes.
And that's the one that it was punching pretty hard when it was punching at us. So I just want to make sure I know, up in the north end where I stay, we had some challenges with trash pickup. I think those wrinkles have been ironed out pretty well. So I just want to make sure that they know that we're addressing this. It is something that we're probably at the end of ironing all the wrinkles. But it is something that, especially as you mentioned, 30% or more increase in refuse that's being generated because people are home is, especially when you have kids that can generate a lot of trash. So I just want to make sure that we address that accordingly.
I will make a quick comment to that, not to cut on Steve, but Steve didn't cause it, but our trucks, even the week before they took over, were down. Our claw truck, or our truck that picked up, was down, and so they were also, that had to be brought into catching up. But I will say today also, I was at the house working, I wasn't working, I was out watching this guy work. Let's get it straight here. But the guy was going down the road in that truck, and I seen it, and I hollered at him. He turned around and came all the way back to my house, and it was Waste Management, or Waste Connection. He was going through, looking at all the stuff, to see what was out, and looking in the can, even to see, so I was kind of surprised, but he came back and talked to me and gave me his card, and I told him, you know, he said they were trying to make sure they could get everything caught up and everything, so.
They do have a dedicated supervisor.
Yeah, that was him.
In the city, like they said they would. They also, because of some of the yard waste, they added an additional manager in the city also, helping to make sure everything was covered. And the yard waste has doubled because everyone's home doing spring cleaning and nothing to do. The yard waste has literally doubled.
I'm not home, but I resemble that remark. I put more than my share of yard waste out last couple of weeks.
Quick question, Steve. The issue with Wedgewood Commons, has it been resolved today?
From what I understand, working remotely and in the office, I understand it is. I don't have the confirmation I really wanted to say I know it was because I didn't get to go through the neighborhood myself.
Okay.
I believe it has. Wedgewood Commons is one of mine. I've also had Rose Hill that came in today, some other issues they're having. And of course, I got one of those nasty grams myself telling me that we can't leave items to be picked up by a claw. So would you like to address that? Because we can have things picked up by a claw. And that's where, before I got mine, a resident had written me and told me that theirs hadn't been picked up by the claw. So we need to clarify for our residents that the claw is still an option available, that we don't have to tie and bundle in 4-foot lengths, correct?
Correct. They don't have to. Our ordinance says we'll pick up anything bundled, tied, or stacked loosely. If they want it picked up quickly, people would bundle it just out of courtesy. Because when you're sitting out there, someone's got to pick that up. It's much easier to throw it in the back of a rear load truck than just a claw. They do have a claw running. They're purchasing one of our claw trucks. And the one consistent thing to remember is our ordinance says we'll pick up 4 cubic yards a week. That's like about the size of a pickup truck bed. But sometimes there's loads that you can't even see the front of the house. That's outside our ordinance, and I'll probably be coming back and asking the commission if there's a way to address that through changing an ordinance, or it actually allows us to do a resolution to assess additional charges if that's something the commission or city manager wishes to proceed.
Comment on it. What I asked, and I got into a lot of one day last week, and I know Steve can tell you, Craig can tell you, probably Rob can tell you, that I got into an all-day conversation with the garbage and trash people, because I got a lot of emails and a lot of things that I answered them. But what I was said to some of them was, with what the problem is with all this stuff staying home and everybody clearing out. But it does say 4 cubic yards, but we kind of want to be of that. What we do is, if we can get up, say, I talked to the guy from the garbage people too, and if we go say 6 cubic yards, don't write them up. Take a picture, if it gets above 6 and that, take a picture, send it to whoever they're doing. And the guy told me today he does that, he takes pictures. So then we can go talk to those citizens and say, hey, this is why the problem was you got that. And give them more of a little, like you said, taking care of the citizens, and tell them if it's over 6. I went out yesterday and looked at one, and I sent you the picture, and I said to Craig, after it was told me that, it was no big tree. They said it was a big tree there, so we couldn't get it. All it was bush. Somebody cut a bush down and put their fence, took 2 pieces of fence down that was in their house they had to replace. So it wasn't no 6, 7 yards, Steve. I went up and took a picture and sent it to Craig. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to have to do. We can get it settled out. It's doing a little extra, but we've done it. We've spoiled them, and that's what it is. So, and I like it too. But I think what we do is, if it gets above 6 yards, then we go to them and tell them. We used to do that, take pictures, remember?
We would, and we would
should take
charge them
pictures.
at
But the garbage has been great, you know. I think I had one, and it was something simple on garbage out of all the things, so.
We did have one, they happened to miss on Delaware Street where the mayor happens to live one time, but
Yeah.
they, city crews would miss a street every once in a while, but with them learning new routes, that's not so bad for just the
And
second week.
he will send you a picture of, when they tell you that nobody's been in their neighborhood, they've got a thing that'll draw it right down to the house. He'll send it to you where you can show it to the people. If they say, hey, ain't nobody been in my neighborhood, they got it on GPS system that come right down to your house and show you. So, you know, they can't say that. So I noticed one lady told me, she said, oh yeah, I went back out and took some more out later, and then they didn't come back. I said, no man, they're not coming back till the next trip.
Yeah.
So that's some of the problems. Okay, Commissioner Wilson, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was, I wanted to
Okay.
clarify that. And
I think we
also-
give them a little, I think they're trying, they're good people, they're working at it, so, like I said, we'll keep working at it until we can get it straight.
Yeah, that's all I
All right.
had.
Okay.
Commissioner First.
Well, I still have one more, two things.
Oh, you got
So,
more?
yeah, I just,
Oh, I said I thought you-
I didn't want to
Oh,
jump in if
All right,
Mr.
go
Brayson
ahead.
wasn't done yet. Sorry, just want to mention a couple things. Please remember, the parks are closed during this time.
Yes.
Folks are attempting to use them. If there's a barricade up, it's meant for you not to go in. If the parks are closed, let's try to abide by the rules that we have so that we can get through this mess and move along. We don't want to close the park. We don't want to close the parks. We don't want to limit recreation, but we have to. So please, work with us, abide by these rules. The other aspect is, we all know there's a lot more folks walking these days. We're seeing them out. It's nice to see the families are out together. It appears they're all abiding by the 6-foot distancing. They're walking around other people who are out on the sidewalks and, but when we're driving, please be mindful of that. You know, they're crossing streets. Maybe there's streets that you didn't see pedestrians on, but they are out. I know that in my case, Montgomery Avenue, White Road, there's a lot of folks walking up and down that all hours. This morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, they're out, and they're out or before the bugs come out. So please be mindful of that and watch as you're coming to a stop sign to look for the pedestrians. We've probably all been close to being hit a few times. I have a daughter that's telling me that all the time, and that folks aren't looking. They're just kind of driving along. So please be mindful of our pedestrians, especially now school's not in, so children are out. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Commissioner First.
I'd just like to thank everybody for their patience. I know this is a real trying and difficult time. From what I've observed, the social distancing is being adhered to. Same with the stay-at-home. Everybody's getting a little buggy. They want to get out. Thank you to all the service people that are out there that are maintaining their jobs. We hope that the economy comes back real soon so everybody can get back to work. I know that is starting to really put the hurt on a lot of families. And I just want to make a special mention to thank all the school teachers and the school administrators for providing an excellent level of education to your children at home. I witness this every day. My dining room has been turned into like a call center and a rock concert and anything else in between. But these teachers are working night and day to put out these distance learning programs that didn't exist. These folks in a week or two have put these programs together. And with their talents, they've developed websites and communications where the children are live on the screen with their teachers. And it's provided such a bonus to these kids who now find themselves at home with nothing to do, and the parents don't want them to just sit in front of the television set or drive them crazy. So they have a full day of education with their teachers. I witness it every day, and it's fantastic. She's even recruited me into some of her programs. But I wanted to pass that special thanks on to the educators and their administrators for doing such a fine job. And it goes unnoticed, and if you don't have children, you're totally unaware of it. Also want to shout out to Steve Krug and Mike Roomer and Ginger Corliss for kicking off the McGuire Road refresh program on the medians. I know the folks down in my district have been waiting for that for a long time. And we understand the circumstances, but the money is there and the work is ready, and we're gonna kick that off April 27th. So we're real excited about that, and I'm gonna let the folks down in District 3 know that that's coming. That's all.
All right, thank you. Craig, I want to go over the, they have a couple of items here. One of them is the food giveaway. One of them is the, I'll let Craig tell you about the health deal, and then I'll talk to you about another one. But Winter Garden is participating in one on the way to do it, and I want to see if we can do it also. But this, there'll be two different people set up in this thing, and I want Craig to talk to everybody here. And I didn't mean to say it to the last, but we can get it, kind of kick it quick. I know we all want to get home, but if you can tell us real quick about the gift 200.
Yes, sir. The mayor reached out to the city manager's office a couple weeks ago after being contacted through from Cisco Foods about some of the things that they were working on in the community to provide relief to citizens that were in need. And we have been looking into that, and there's two things going on right now that we can participate in. One is being operated via partnership with the West Orange Healthcare District, and which Commissioner Wilson is the Women's Club appointee to the governing board at the West Orange Healthcare District. They have a partnership with the Paulus Institute to provide food boxes to very low-income, needy families. And what they have done is partnered with a whole bunch of different organizations. The healthcare district has kicked in money to fund this effort, and they've packed these boxes with dry goods and enough food to sustain a family of 2 for 1 month or a family of 4 for 2 weeks. And they've partnered with a lot of different businesses. FedEx is actually delivering the boxes and things like that. The first project that they picked, the City of Winter Garden had identified approximately 168 homes in East Winter Garden, and that met a number of criteria. And so that was the first project. They have they've informed us yesterday, they have 200 additional boxes ready to go that they can ship to citizens in Ocoee that are in need. And again, that's enough food to last 2 weeks for a family of 4, packed in a box, and it's mostly dry goods, non-perishable items. But they've tried to do, I was impressed that they did a really good job of trying to balance the nutritional value of what they're packing and everything too. In addition to that, the city of, so that's program number 1. And along with Rob, we've been working with the Support Services Department and also with Ginger in our CRA to do a data level analysis to try to identify the best target candidate area for those 200 boxes. And we've identified a pretty good area based on the best available data. It includes the trailer parks, Pioneer Key 1 and 2, and some of the homes around there. I can't remember the name of the other, security. And those have been corroborated with data that we obtained from the West Orange Healthcare District, as well as some of the USDA maps and information that we had available based on property records. So that's what we would like to move forward with the consent of the City Commission. One thing that Winter Garden did that we could also prepare is a door hanger that says, hey, if you don't need this, give it to somebody that does. But you've been identified as possibly needing this support right now. All right, so that's one program, and that doesn't require any investment from us other than to provide them with addresses, okay? The second thing is the City of Winter Garden decided to do a program targeting people that couldn't get out and shop very much. And so they based theirs off a property analysis of homesteads that were assessed at less than $50,000. And they're doing a paper product and cleaning supply program their commission last meeting authorized up to $40,000 to be allocated without having to come back to the commission to providing cleaning supplies and paper products to those families. And that's a broader group than what the West Orange Healthcare project is targeting. The West Orange Healthcare District's targeting specifically people that have very few options to eat right now. Winter Garden, broadened their program, and they're actually paying for the paper product program, and that includes seniors. There's a lot of senior citizens that fall into that bracket, and of course, some of the people that are getting the food boxes will fit into that bracket as well, but it's a broader number. And based on our preliminary data analysis, we estimate about 680 homes would qualify for something like the paper product and cleaning supply program. So that's the basic information on that. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if you have any about that. That's something that we're prepared to act on if the commission decided they wanted to allocate funds. I believe there's 20,000 and change still left in contingency. The one thing I will also advise you of is that it's a very strong likelihood that we would get reimbursed by FEMA for any investments we make towards this program. I said likely because it's FEMA, so there's never a 100% guarantee, but it is in all likelihood we could get reimbursed for it. Yes, sir.
And Cisco's giving it at cost, whatever the cost is.
Cisco is doing the paper product and cleaning supply sale to Winter Garden at cost. That's correct.
So what we have to figure out, and I think it's a good thing. I know I go to the store, my wife don't like to go because of this stuff, and I do go out. You walk in the store, there's never any paper products or any cleaning products in there. I don't care how soon you hit the store. So if there's a way we can do that, Rob, I don't know if we could say we put $15,000 in a fund and try to fund some of this stuff and with the paper products and stuff.
Do we know the cost per home for the paper products?
Huh?
How much is it per home that they're estimating the cost is?
Well, we could get that information from City of Winter Garden. I think part of, in the mayor, we did discuss it very briefly today. I think the important part is if you're going to authorize something like this, you're going to have some input maybe from someone like the mayor, and we can get together and do it and let you all know what we're doing instead of having to come back 2 weeks later and then launching it. And, we get them their cleaning products and their paper products at the end when they're opening everything back up. So I would recommend if we were going to do something like that, and I'm just looking right now to see the contingency balance, and I don't think it was sent to me this week, but
it was.
If you're sure there's 20 in there, I mean, we're coming to the end. We're doing the budget amendment. We're coming into May. We're about ready to start next year's budget. I don't really have any issues with taking 3/4 of what's left in the contingency. And like Craig said, there's probably a good possibility we'll end up getting the money back from FEMA. It might be 2 or 3 years down the road, but
One of the problems is, and I know Commissioner Wilson knows because where she's at, but I manage a couple of rentals, and they can't get, they don't have a job, they ain't getting any money, and they can't even get through to get their unemployment. So I think there's people, luckily I don't have that problem. I got money put away from my retirement, but a lot of people can't do it, and they're not getting any money to even subsidize them. So if we could figure out a way to help them. I know I was surprised. Cisco came to me and come to buy my house when they said they wanted to help. They're helping Winter Garden and said this is what they're doing. So, I mean, if we can figure out a way to do something, it'd be nice to say we're doing it too. So it's up to you guys. I mean,
I think that I think it's a great program. It is much needed. I'm looking at it from the aspect of recoup some of the money back, and I think again, as we mentioned before, the county is getting $8 billion, and that $8 billion is dedicated to the county, municipalities within the county. So I think it's likely that we'll get some of that money back, if not all of it. So I say, yeah, I would agree that we would move forward with this type of program, especially when we have citizens out there that really need the help.
Well, I'm gonna volunteer with that Cisco thing myself, so I got plenty of time, so I'm gonna do a little volunteering, but I would hope, that the county will give us that money back. It should, so if it's okay with all you guys, let Rob, and I think Rob can handle it anyway, with the thing we're doing now, and I'll be dealing with it too. So I'd like to get a hold of that guy and tell him we'd like to start some of that. And then we can also contact Commissioner Wilson. She knows some of the same people that's gonna need
Well,
that.
the nature of what I do.
I know.
As a social worker.
Yeah.
We are serving probably over 100 meals a day, Monday through Friday, to folks who are hungry. I mean, Mr. Firstner knows exactly what we do, and, you know, giving out produce and bakery items as we have them available. We're doing food distribution certain days of the week. We do some financial assistance that's within our capabilities. Again, what hinders us is that opening up and allowing people to come in is a tough issue now, especially when you have meals that are grab and go and no one can stay there where we are. So yes, and I realize paper products are something that we don't get ourselves at the agency. I mean, it's not something we have to give away. Cleaning supplies, those aren't items that we have the ability. We're tough getting them for ourselves, especially now. But, and we require a lot of cleaning because we're serving food. But, you know, paper products are tough to get for us, and to give out are very difficult. So if we can partake in one of these programs that we can address, you know, again, help some folks. We have communities here. We have some apartment complexes that are lower income, communities that are lower income. And again, right, until things open up, it's tough, and people can go back to work. It's a tough time.
Well, I will
that.
get with Rob and Craig, and we'll see if we can get this thing started, and then we can send you the notification.
Mayor, I just recommend the
money.
official vote for the $15,000 would have to come
I'll
from
make that
contingency.
motion.
What was it? I couldn't hear.
15, he said.
Motion made by
For
Commissioner Wilson.
$15,000 and with hopes again that we can apply for
Thanks.
FEMA or some other program.
Yeah, that's true, and,
If it ever comes
and
back.
probably the next time you'll hear about it is we say, this is what we were able to do, this many boxes that has included this, these are the types of people who it went to in these areas.
And I'll be happy to work with you on that if you want.
All right.
Yeah, and we'll probably need your help on that.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Oliver. Any more comments? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. It's some tough times right now, and I truly appreciate all the city staff. We get a call every week. Most times it's an hour and a half, 2 hours on each director's telling everything that's going on, what's happening in the departments, which I think is great. I think our city's in I telling somebody the other day in another city how great our city shape we're in for what's going on. So there's no reason why we can't help and do a little bit. I'm glad to see Winter Garden's doing that. I'm glad I wish we'd have got into it a little earlier. But this gentleman come by and said, hey, they'd like to see if we'd like to do that, and I think it's great. So if you know anybody that needs that, call City Hall, tell Sherry or Melody where we can do that. All right? To have the police, I know they're busy, but when all their areas and they still work in those, each area's got zones, right? They need to check these parks like Commissioner Wilson said, and even, you know, because to tell people when we ride up and say something, they're gonna tell us to jump in the creek or something.
We've had ice cream trucks coming through the neighborhood, so I did talk to Chief Placencia about that. They send patrols out, and they have been educating the ice cream trucks as to them not being essential out there, because you got kids that will come and congregate. See, some of the parents are at work, the kids are at home by themselves, and they hear the ice cream truck, they run out the house, and they will congregate near the ice cream truck and not observing any social distancing. Right. So I have been talking to Chief Placencia about that, and she's been sending out the patrols and let them know, educating the ice cream trucks and candy trucks, you're not essential, so you need to pack it up, sorry.
I had a barber call me and wanted to know if he could take one person at a time into the barber shop. I said, well, I'd ask, but I think that's under the county too, right? Under that, or can we, huh? So no. That's what I told him. But there, I mean, people get fidgety. I know, like I said, my crown bill's going real high last month. So, all right, May the 5th. Anybody have any things before then? Get a hold of the city manager. Thanks, Craig. for working on that and getting those numbers lined up. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.